this is Bethany Faye, and this is my video for the second round of the 2016 NYX Face Awards. If you like what I created for this challenge and would like to see me continue in this competition, please go to NYXFaceAwards.com and vote for me up to 3 times a day. For this anime-themed round, I chose to become Edward Elric from FULLMETAL ALCHEMIST. I decided to channel Ed through androgynous yet understated face makeup. On the left side, I created the illusion of his metal or Automail arm. On the right side, you'll see I got inspired by what happens to a person's body when they get torn apart by alchemy. So this is a pretty extensive look to do. Let's get started. First, I begin by straightening my hair using the Eva NYC flat iron. This is to achieve smooth, straight hair like Edward has. Then I'm switching from my normal blue eyes to honey-colored circle lenses, which oddly enough look brown on me. Then I'm taking the NYX Hydra Touch Foundation Primer and smoothing that gently all over my face. Next, I run some toner through my brows to take away the oils because now we're going to smooth them down to restructure our brows. Ed, like many other anime characters, has really thin eyebrows, but I opted for keeping thickness but going with the same general dramatic shape of his brows. But first we're going to take the NYX color correcting palette and correct all the redness in our face. And then we're going to take the peach and salmon concealer and correct the darkness on the tail end of our brows, much like you would correct dark circles under your eyes. Next, I've assimilated an arsenal of complexion products from NYX, starting with the NYX HD Concealer. I'm going to go under and brighten my under eyes. Then taking the NYX Stay Matte But Not Flat Foundation in Ivory, I'm going to be buffing that and the concealer into my complexion with a foundation sponge. Then for some additional coverage, I'm taking the NYX's Gotcha Covered Concealer in Ivory and working that onto some problem areas and the tail end of my brows. And then to look more like an illustrated, shaded, animated character, I took a darker Hydra Touch foundation to the edges of my face and my neck. Then I pop on a very subtle HD blush called Soft Spoken by NYX. Taking NYX's Tame and Frame Brow Pomade in Blonde, I'm going to be structuring my brows with a few corrections, of course, to make it ultra defined, keeping in mind that Ed's arch is almost non-existent. Next, I'm going to begin contouring a faux crease between the brow and the eyelid, and then contouring my nose as well. We're going to get more defined with this crease as we go, but this is the best way I've found to create that anime folded eyelid type look. This is an especially good trick for hooded eyes. Once I prime my lids with NYX's HD Eyeshadow Base, I'm going to put some cream colored powder on my lids from the Easy on the Eyes palette. And just a heads up, you're going to be seeing a lot of this NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, as well as this slide-on liner in Pure White. And then taking the NYX's Jolie gel liner, I'm going to be defining that lower lash line, as well as that little faux crease we created, and then smudging it out with a petite brush. We are going to lay the ground as well for a soft eyeliner wing. Nothing too dramatic for Edward, since he's like a dude, but I still wanted that upturned eye a little bit. And then I'm going to be taking NYX's colored felt tip liner in chocolate brown to get that wing a little bit more precise. Next, I prep my lashes with NYX's Full Figure Mascara, and then it's time for falsies. Now this is going to seem odd, but I'm taking NYX's Wicked Lashes in Sinful, and I'm going to be trimming them, and then applying the opposite lash from each eye to the inner part of the eye. So I'm going to put the long part on the innermost part of the eye here, and that's going to make our eyelashes look like they're touching our eyebrows, and therefore closing the gap in between our crease. Having the lashes longer and more focused in the center will create a bigger, rounder, more anime-like eye illusion. And then to keep this look more eye-focused, I went with a nude lip, so I used NYX Plush Gel Lipstick in Nude Beach. And now for the fun part. I'm using NYX's slide-on liner in Pure White to map out the areas of where my Automail arm will be, and I correct and go over places again and again and restructure the way I want it with gray paint. Even though I used water-based paint for my look, I would recommend that if you are going to wear this illusion out and about, to use alcohol-activated paint. That way it will hold up better if you graze against something and it won't rub off your hand or arm. Then after highlighting with the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, I resort to various black eyeliners to structure this look a little bit more. I first used the NYX Lip Liner in Blackberry, and I chose this because it has a more solid tip to get in there for some details. And then I'm correcting a bit with paint as I make these lines. I am going to paint my armpit black, and this is going to be negative space for a while until we fix it. For now, just make sure it's super opaque. Next, we'll begin shading to make this more 3D. I'm going to make these little ripples I see in the illustrations when I pull up Ed's Automail. And to shade, I'm using a mixture of the Primal Shadow in Hot Black as well as the brown from the Easy on the Eyes palette that we used earlier. It's a good idea to use pictures of rippling metals as well as some illustrations of Ed or screenshots from the show so you can get an idea of where shadows fall on his armor, though a lot of them I'm adding in myself because they don't really have the budget to detail that much shadow on a character. Keep in mind, because this is illusion type makeup, there is a lot of back and forth with the shadows, seeing how everything will lay from one viewpoint because it's not going to look correct from other angles. So keep that in mind, there is a lot of trial and error. Next, we're going to make some scarred areas look raised by tapping out the NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk, and I'm using the Ombre Lip Duo in Cookies and Cream to create some scar tissue that I wish you saw, sarcastic Mr. Know-It-All. I'm then going to set that with NYX's Studio Finishing Powder. Then starting with NYX's gel liner in white, I'm going to be highlighting. I'm also going to be using my Jumbo Pencil in Milk, and if any highlight gets too distinctive, just tap it out, whether you use the Jumbo Pencil or the white eyeliner from earlier. Then after painting my arm gray, I'm going to be adding some steampunk details to my wrist and my knuckles. I'm going to look at a reference picture yet again, and I'm going to be drawing in the divots above my knuckles and the ball joints, as well as the seams of my metal fingers. Taking the lip liner from earlier, I'm going to be shading a bit, but then going in further with that black eyeshadow and a pencil brush to make these areas look deeper. I'm also using the brown eyeshadow from earlier to add some dinginess. Now, I chose the older design of his Automail arm, and this has 3 lines going down the main part of the arm. Keep in mind that as you turn your arm, the design twists, so consider carefully how you will pose with this makeup. Then using the pure white slide-on liner, I'm going to be doing some subtle highlighting on all the edges of the balls and joints. Then using NYX's Vinyl Liquid Liner, I'm going to get into smaller details for those more precise lines that need to be more distinctively black. And then for the areas with the most distinct highlight, I'm using NYX's white gel liner again, and I'm going to be using very thin highlights along the edges of some of these pieces to bring them to life. Of all the steps we've done so far, this is one of the best parts that brings it all together, finding those edges that would stick out naturally and giving them a bit of a highlight to make them really look like they're sitting off the surface of your skin. And to contrast that, I am taking the NYX's Vinyl Liquid Liner to line a few more distinctive lines that I feel should stick out a little bit more. These finite shadows and highlights at the end are the most important part to calm down on and make sure that these lines are cleanest of all, because the rest of them are shadows, and keeping these really clean brings the look all together. Then taking one of the cooler eyeliners ever, NYX Aqualux Glam in the Glam Platinum. This is a super shimmery liner. I'm going to be adding in a sort of chainmail mesh underneath the shoulder where that black part is. And then to make sure that area looks sunken back, I'm going to shade underneath the big shoulder piece with black eyeshadow. And finally, after adding some finishing touches, you are Edward Elric. A prideful yet selfless character who is a prodigy in alchemy and has definitely seen his share of terrible things alongside his little brother. Speaking of which, let's get to how he lost his arm. Ed committed a forbidden type of alchemy called human transmutation in an attempt to try to save his brother, and unfortunately, it ripped his arm away. I was very inspired by how this looks in the series, so I decided to portray it as it dematerializes the body. So first I begin with a square-edged small paintbrush and some black body paint, and we're going to be mapping out the areas, the edges of this where the rectangles and pieces of a person are being pulled apart. When this happens to Ed, you can see some of the flesh particles coming off of him, so be sure to leave some fleshy rectangles blank with your own natural skin color. And then create some black rectangles that will appear earlier on the neck so it looks like we're really falling apart. When a character on FULLMETAL ALCHEMIST becomes deconstructed by alchemy, you can see it looks a lot like a puzzle falling apart, except for all the pieces are rectangles, so it's really peculiar looking. Keep in mind that the rectangles are usually all varying shapes and sizes. They're not perfect looking, they're distraught looking. Then taking NYX's white gel liner, I've begun signifying something that could either look like nerve endings or a person's life force running throughout their body. Being sure to put that in the black holes as well, and then shading the left side of those to look like the inside part of me is glowing as I'm falling apart. Then taking the primal shadow in hot red as well as the NYX Ultimate Brights palette, I'm going to be adding a colorful reddish glow all around the biggest part of those nerves. And for a finishing touch, I'm adding in some really thin lines of the puzzle breaking apart, using the brown felt liner from our wing. And this is optional, but simply because I got the inkling to do it, I decided to put red paint as blood dripping straight down. Ed has really thin blood, or he must, because when he gets cut, it bleeds straight down his face really quickly, like a stream of Gatorade. It's crazy. But aside from being curious on how it looked, I just thought it suited the melodrama of Ed's look. The entire series is melodramatic, and I just love it. Alright, that is my finished look for the anime round of the NYX Face Awards. I chose something incredibly challenging to me for this round, so I hope that you will give me a chance and vote for me so that I can proceed to the next one and continue on in this competition. I need your votes even more than I did in the first round because I am one of the smaller channels and every vote counts when it comes to this competition. So please, if you do want to see what else I've got up my sleeve and watch me challenge myself and grow, it would just be cool. If you are new to my channel, then thank you for coming along, and if you want to, please subscribe to see what else I'll be putting out next. I thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and again, I really can't convey it in words because I suck at that. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.